Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That is Jack. I am Conrad, and this is the 45 match week 22. We walked into this week thinking, wow, there's some really cool games. In the first two matches, 4 people were sent off. It got off to a hot and not necessarily good start for those that were the victims of those two sending offs. And we will start straight away with Wolves and Arsenal. David Luiz, penalty or not a penalty? Boy, Wolves needed that. I'll ask you that again. It's just he's David Luiz, got a David Luiz. First win since December 15th, 8-match winless run for Wolves. Win leaves them 14th, but gives them 26 points, 12 clear of the relegation spots. Fortunate on the David Luiz penalty. Yes, it was a penalty, not a red card. That's how I looked at it. Arsenal since lost that appeal, so he will miss the match against Villa. Leno red was more clear. Wolves nearly 55% possession, 7 of 11 shots on target. João Moutinho with a match winner from range in the 48th. Arteta was very irate after this match, justifiably so. Maybe not about the penalty, but about the sending off for sure. His team were a bit unfortunate, hitting the wrong side of the post and the bar on many occasions.
Yeah, I've seen so many different interpretations of the double jeopardy of the last man rule, because some claim that it was incidental, so it shouldn't be a red, it shouldn't be double jeopardy. Some claim that it wasn't an attempt at the ball, so it should be a red. I actually don't know what's correct, and it's probably just tearing off, like reopening the wound for Arsenal fans. But David Luiz was idiotic. I mean, you're behind the guy chasing him down. Any sort of tap is going to send him to the ground, and always going to raise the question of, well, he's about to shoot one-on-one with Leno. Maybe
he was trying to pull up. It was not intentional. I mean, it was so slight. It was enough to throw him off, obviously. But
yeah, it harsh, yes. Within a reasonable interpretation of the law, I think no. I think, but watching that, and then you compare that to the, a lot of fans compare it to the Bruno stomp, where he kind of raked down the ankle of Xhaka in their match just a week prior, and they said, well. One rule for this, one different rule for this. Like, why is this not even a booking, whereas a tap in the back of the leg is a red card? It just felt like a very, very poor interpretation of it. But
and you're just accustomed to seeing David Luiz do stupid things, so you're more inclined to give him the red.
Yeah, and I mean, since Arteta took over, 9 red cards for Arsenal, 3 for the other side, the next closest sides, 3 times as many. That's stunning, because they were the better side. Fundamentally, this game, but they didn't play like it because they only had 10 men for the second half, and they only had 9 men for a good chunk of the rest of the game as well. So I think the performance in the first half was very positive for Arsenal. The discipline of his team was not. Wolves, I think.
And Arteta was asked. Go ahead. Sorry.
And Wolves, I think, will be disappointed that they weren't able to punish them more for being at 9 men. But ultimately, you've been on a poor run of form. Getting 3 points against a resurgent Arsenal side, I think, is always going to be a positive thing. So go ahead with what you were going to say.
No, when you get the outfield goal, I mean, that's just getting Moutinho on the score sheet, first time scoring at home in a while. It was just they just needed those 3 points. I won't belabor.
First time scoring in a while, so I think it's a big positive for Moutinho.
Next up, Man United, Southampton. What do you talk about here? Like Arsenal,
times.
Southampton twice in 2 seasons, 9-0 for Hasenhüttl and his team. But Southampton, 2 sent off, no question on the first one. The second minute red for Alexander Jankovic. It was his first full start as a 19-year-old for Saints. That followed by 2 United goals, an own goal from Bednarek, 3 more goals from United before Bednarek was sent off for denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. Since that has been overturned, followed by the Fernandes penalty conversion, then followed by 2 more United goals, including one, I think, in the 93rd minute, just to final kick in the crotch. So, as I said, that's 2 seasons now in a row with 9-0 defeat for Hasenhüttl Saints. Ugly.
So many things you could take from that. 2 straight 9-0 losses, and he's still a great manager. He's still regarded as one of the best managers in the Premier League. How many people can you say that for, that you could lose 9-0 twice for a mid-table side, and you wouldn't be a joke? But they're going to joke about this, because probably Southampton won't, but people will joke at them about it. Brighton fans, Leeds fans, rivals of them. So I think it's harsh. The 9-0 is harsh, I think, on Southampton, because you played with 10 men for 88 minutes, because it was just a really bad mistake very early on. The second red card was not a red card. That was even worse than the Luis one. It was just a dive from Martial, simply put. There was I shouldn't say dive. There was a tiny bit of contact that he made look like he was raked down the leg. And it's never been a penalty, never been a red card. And that's why it was overturned, because it was a mistake. And so 9-0, I think, is definitely like, don't be saying relegation battle if you're Southampton, and don't be saying title race if you're Man United. And I think people recognize that. They'll joke about it because it's a 9-0 Premier League match, and how many times does that happen? But I think the most remarkable thing is that Man United went level with Man City on points, and after a 9-0 win, didn't pass them in goal difference. They were still 4 behind. That was remarkable to me.
Summary. Almost doubled up their goal difference from 10 to plus 19.
Yeah, and that's a big deal, though, honestly, because they passed Liverpool in the goal difference, especially after their loss to Brighton at home. So it's like you can like maybe discredit United for stat padding. Some may claim that it is.
You need to. Goal difference is going to make a huge difference. You got the
points, and I mean you can only think back to the year before your last title. You were joint top, but you were second because you had less goal difference, and if you had been more ruthless, I think it's a good mentality to have. I think it's the only thing that's gonna be positive. And after 9-0, people will say, "Oh, you haven't won a trophy. This is like not something to celebrate." Celebrate a 9-0 win, man. I mean, you just put 9 past another Premier League team. I know I've said that several times, but
9 times.
Just under 5 XG for Man United. So my only fear is, will the XG gods come back and haunt them like they did with Liverpool when they put 7 past Palace? They went about 7 more XG before scoring again finally. So we know how vengeance likes to work in terms of the expected goals. So who knows? Maybe this is actually a bit of a curse for Man United. But Southampton, you have Bednarek back. You had 8 players already out. You're getting Minamino on loan. I think there's actually reason for positive, which is, again, stunning. You lost 9-0, and you're not just utterly depressed. You actually have some optimism.
Well, they're not in a relegation fight. They will not be in a relegation fight as much as this hurts, and it obviously hurts their goal difference, to the tune. Now they're -7. They were +2, now -7. Right? So, but United remains they remain second on 44 points. As you mentioned, the second best goal difference in the league of +19, nearly doubling that number in one match. Next, they are home to Everton, which should be interesting to see which of those 4 teams will show up, the 2 different United sides, the 2 different Everton sides. We see this a lot. Southampton dropped 12 on 29, travel to St. James's Park, hopefully to get healthy against Newcastle. Next up, Leeds and Everton. This was a good Leeds side that showed up. Problem was, Everton was better. They were interested. Leeds outpossessed Everton. They outshot Everton. They outpassed Everton. They outtouched Everton. They outcornered them, but they did not outscore, right? They had 63% of the possession. That's what Leeds does. That is how they play defense, is to hold on to the football. No Jordan Pickford for Everton. No problem. Robin Olsen, very capable. That late triple save really kept them in the match. Dominic Calvert-Lewin back in the goals with the match winner heading into the break. But, brand new 300,000-pound pitch for Leeds, and they can't stand up on it. They are slipping and sliding all over the place.
Yeah, this is big for Everton because they had briefly creeped back in discussion of, can they push into the top 6, and then they immediately dropped points in 2 matches. And this is not an easy match because I think Leeds played very, very well. They created a good amount of chances, but Everton out-created them in terms of raw chances, 1.8 XG to the 1.47 XG of Leeds. So this is a very good performance and a very good result because this is a very volatile league, as we've seen. Teams have fluctuated up and down. You're now past Spurs, 3 points ahead of them with a game in hand. So there's a lot of reason for optimism, as a matter of fact. So for Leeds, I think, again, a case of it was a good performance, but just not converting your chances, not being able to truly turn that ball possession into dominance, and then credit goes to Robin Olsen for that. So I don't really know how much to take from this versus these are 2 sides that are incredibly inconsistent, and they were inconsistent, which is, I guess, the most consistent thing about them. I say consistent
a lot. You can count on them to not play with any kind of pattern.
Yeah.
Which is what consistency is.
It was great. It was a great match, though.
fun to watch for sure. Leeds 11th on 29 ahead of Southampton, and Palace on goal difference. And it is Palace that they play next in their next Premier League match. Everton 7th on 36 behind Chelsea on goal difference, 2 points back of West Ham. They travel to Old Trafford next, as we mentioned, seeing which of all four of those sides will show up. Next up, Villa and West Ham. It's a good bounce-back win for West Ham coming off of the loss to Liverpool 3-1 with all the scoring in the second half. Souček bagging the opener in the 51st. Brace for Loney, Jesse Lingard, either side of Ollie Watkins. Lingard clearly the story here. We didn't talk about him a ton in the build-up, but that was a shrewd loan move. He hadn't started a match since July of last year, hadn't played meaningful minutes. I think not even 180 minutes this year so far. But he looked great with Antonio and Benrahma. Villa had opportunities in that first, did not capitalize on them, didn't do much. They kind of just looked flat, sluggish, which is strange because they've got 2 matches in hand versus the clubs that have played full 22. West Ham, 20 shots, 10 on target. That's a lot. Especially with only 44% of the ball. Villa had the ball, but they were sloppy. They gave these goals away at West Ham.
Yeah, it's because Jesse Lingard showed Jack Grealish some levels. He said, I'm the captain now. I'm the captain. That's what he said. It was very impressive to see Lingard back out there playing because I think he's got a lot of talent. He's got a great sense of footballing IQ. His movement's fantastic, and he's a good technical player. He gets memed a lot because he likes to dance when he doesn't play that much. He's not very good. But fundamentally, he's a pretty good footballer, and he proved it. He bagged 2 and was the big reason why they won this match. And so I think this is a lot of reason for positivity. I said beforehand, can they bounce back? Because it was a bad performance against Liverpool, but it did not dissuade it from the fact that they had won 4 of their last 5. They still have won 4 of their last 5, adding a very good result after that. They are immediately right back on Liverpool's tails after they drop points to Brighton, another stunner from them. So look, they're keeping themselves in this race. And Villa, as much as we talk about them as this great side because they play great football, but 10 wins, 2 draws, 8 losses. I mean, 8 losses is about as many, only less than Arsenal in the top half of the table. So there are still some flaws to this Aston Villa side that are being shown, which is only natural. I mean, they're a side that don't have as much talent as even West Ham do, but they were just playing at a much higher level with a lot more belief, a lot more determination, a lot more form. And they're beginning to come back down to earth a little bit. I anticipate they'll probably level off in a mid-table position, which is still very good. I don't think we should interpret that as a bad thing, that they're beginning to come back down to where I think many of us expected them to be in a very optimistic reason, because there was very good cause for relegation for both of these clubs.
Both of them.
As I say,
Absolutely.
every time I talk about West Ham, I had them getting relegated. They are not being relegated. They are in 5th place. And come June, July when the season's over, and we look back on those predictions and we see West Ham maybe finished 6th, 7th, 8th, maybe even 5th or 4th, I don't look like an idiot because they went from 18th to literally 10 plus positions better than that. So they continue to prove me wrong. They continue to play with the amount of talent they have at that level. And a big reason is Souček and Rice. They have the spine of the team down, and that's a huge reason. And if you get Lingard to play consistently with a lot of talent,
alongside Benrahma and Antonio, that's a good team.
A top 4 push is not out of the picture because Liverpool play Man City next. They play Fulham next. It's very plausible that Liverpool lose to Man City. It's very plausible you win against Fulham, and all of a sudden you're level on games and you're past them on points. This has been a crazy year. There's no fans in the foreseeable future. Why not be the team that really took the mantle and said, we're going to be the surprise? Maybe Leicester might be like, well, you're forgetting about us. But there is so much room for this West Ham side to grow. And for Villa, too, which is why this is such a great game to watch, because they're 2 very exciting sides. And I think these 2 sides are the biggest reasons why this season's been fantastic, because they've been nicking points off of the big sides, and they've been making great games where they usually wouldn't be. So credit to both of them, and I'm really excited where they both go.
Yeah, the question is, what happened to Leicester last year where they just faded down the stretch? Was that due to depth? Whatever that question is, does West Ham suffer the same fate, right? Because they don't have the depth of the clubs they're chasing, exception potentially being Leicester, any other team outside of the top 6 that loses 3 of your 4 starting center backs like a Liverpool did, or the way Manchester City has been able to continue to score out of the midfield without Aguero being up there, their talisman striker. and United just doing what United are doing, which I don't know is sustainable anyways. But Villa remain ninth on 32. They host Arsenal at Villa Park. Hammers fifth on 38 points. Again, to your point, 2 points back of Liverpool. They've got a London derby away at Craven Cottage against Fulham. Last up, Spurs and Chelsea. No Dele Alli. We asked that in the front of this one. He wasn't even on the bench. And the question here is this the Mourinho meltdown that we've been waiting for, right? Alison Bender asked him a question in the post-match news conference why he left Gareth Bale on the bench when chasing a goal. He responded, "Good question. You do not deserve to know the answer," right? Shocked, but not surprised, but is completely disrespectful. She represents the fans, and she's a journalist asking a legitimate question, right? You don't want to answer? That's fine. Don't answer. Don't be a you-know-what. We talk about him being one of the best managers in the world from a trophy perspective. He's also one of the most predictable, and I don't mean from a tactical sense. I just mean he's going to do this, and the next step is lashing out at the players, right? He's still defending the players, saying he sees the spirit. I'm not sure that he's watching the same game of football that I'm watching because they lacked any kind of idea and creativity, and it's clear how much they miss Harry Kane. But Chelsea, for their part, undefeated under Tuchel, 2 wins in a row now, getting the lone goal courtesy of Timo Werner, drawing the penalty on Eric Dyer, dispatched by Jorginho. Chelsea, 18 shots on goal, only 2 on target. Spurs managed the same number on target, but only from 7 total shots. XG firmly favored Chelsea. Clearly, Kane is irreplaceable. Spurs lacked everything until their usual push late. Can't do anything. 3 straight losses now for Mourinho's men.
Yeah, let me make the defense of Jose Mourinho. He came into a Spurs team that has not won a trophy in decades. I don't know if it's 2 decades or if it's 18 years. I don't know what club it's. I feel like some club is an 18-year trophy drought. It's been a long time since they've won a trophy. And they are in a final in a few weeks. I believe it's April is when it is because they've been pushing that Carabao Cup back and back. That Carabao Cup final. And if he wins a trophy with the Spurs team, he is, by nature, maybe you may disagree, automatically better than Mauricio Pochettino was because he won them a trophy, something he never could do. So this Spurs team has always had, I think, bigger aspirations than their club has been ready for, if that makes sense, because they haven't won in a long time. They don't have that history, and they don't have that culture yet. I think Mourinho's trying to build that. I think that's why he sees a bit of optimism in them for, but it's not there yet. This is a team devoid of real winners, with the exception of a few, like Gareth Bale, namely, who was on the bench. And so I think there's still reason for positive. I am not giving up on Mourinho yet because if Mourinho, yes, he'll be rude to the press, he'll be rude to his players, he'll have all these negative things around him, but fundamentally, I think who out there is going to do a better job getting what you have out of this roster than he will. Because you could say
remains to be seen. I think
maybe you should be playing Bale. Maybe you should be playing Ali. But I don't know. I just don't think there's a manager out there that is legitimately better than Mourinho to do with what this roster, with what they can do. Because
they're better than 8th place.
I think they're better than 8th place. They still do have a game in hand. So, I mean, there's just so much left in this season. I think Mourinho always invites a lot of negativity because he perpetuates it. But let's talk about a bit of positivity. Chelsea look great under Tuchel. They are they're just shooting at the table. Only 4 behind Liverpool now when they were chasms, just miles behind them only a few weeks ago under Lampard. They're playing with great defensive structure. They're dominating the ball. Werner looked pretty good today. He won the penalty that was the ultimate winning goal. I think this is a Chelsea side that's really going to be top 4 is very, very plausible for them. And I think the most scared club in the Premier League right now, I think it's probably Liverpool because they've been very inconsistent and they've got a lot of teams hot on their tails, especially Chelsea, who are red hot and going for this top 4. I think under Tuchel, they're going to make a run for the top 4, and next season can make a run for the title. Because
I think they could overtake Leicester, Liverpool, and United.
I imagine a honeymoon period will end pretty soon, and they'll come back down to earth. But this team has so much talent. I think it's Man City and Liverpool very close when fully fit in terms of who has more talent, and then Chelsea just a slight ring below them, and a few signings in the summer could bridge that gap. So this is a very exciting time for Chelsea fans, especially because you've got some favorable fixtures coming up, and there's just a sense of optimism at the club that hasn't been there in a long time. Lampard was a club legend who'll always be loved, but Tuchel is a different level in terms of tactician. He's able to get more out of the players that Lampard never could, and this is a side I think is definitely superior to Spurs, and this is a disappointing result for them because instead of being 3 points ahead, level on points, you're 3 points behind now. And I don't see them catching them unless they seriously get some new improved performances from players, because fundamentally, Chelsea have far more talent than Spurs do.
100%. I think Tuchel is going to maximize that a lot better, I think, than Mourinho is. I think he's just more tactically flexible right now, and I don't think
than Lampard or Mourinho.
Than Mourinho. Mourinho, I don't think he has players that he can trust defensively to play a more open style right now, even though that's what they were doing in October, November, right, where they were scoring the goals and doing. And again, look, you can't replace a guy like Kane who's playing a hybridized 9-10 better than anybody's ever done what he does, right? I mean, he's unbelievable. That'll do it for us for the look back at week 22. That is Jack. I'm Conrad. This has been the 45. Please do comment. Let us know what you think. Please subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Look for us on the Twitter at the 45. Take care now.